I was on the Brandon Aiyuk beat last year, and it was a lot of fun. This year, he's dialed it back a little bit. We haven't really been thinking about Brandon Aiyuk until recently. He's been posting on social media again. And the thing that's cool about Brandon Aiyuk when he posts on social media is it's hard to say what he's talking about, what he means, how he feels. And I think that makes it even better. So why don't I tell you what he's actually posted, and we can sort of make sense of it ourselves. You being 79 years old, me being 37, and us not really being in his target demographic. Let's try our best.
Oh, okay.
So a couple of weeks ago, Julio Jones went on a podcast and sort of went on a tangent about how it still eats him up inside that he only got 4 targets in the Super Bowl. That was the one that Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator. He didn't mention Kyle Shanahan's name. You could take it as a shot at Kyle Shanahan. The next day, Brandon Aiyuk posts a picture on his Instagram story, which you don't know what that is. Don't worry about it. Posted a picture on Instagram of Julio Jones. Maybe it was a coincidence, but that's what he did. Then after that, he posted a picture of Terrell Owens doing sit-ups in his driveway. That was famously 20 years ago when he was suspended from training camp and eventually forced his way off of the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe he's just a T.O. enthusiast. T.O.'s kid is on the team. Went to my high school, Bishop O'Dowd. Then, finally, Brandon Aiyuk posted a couple of things on Instagram with words. He wrote, "Y'all crybaby-ass divas be killing the vibes on Instagram." Shaking my head. There's got to be an age limit on hating. If you're 30 years or older, just post yo kids and shut the hell up. There's a lot of wisdom there. And then one more, he says, "They want to play cool now. Nah. Hell no. I want that smoke still." So who they are, I don't know, Dad. What do you make of these tweets?
Iggy, I'm an English major and I'm pretty good at sort of getting what people write. Honestly, it's another language. Probably because I'm so old, I don't understand the references or the lingo. So I have no opinion, but I would say, didn't he also unfollow the 49ers on something?
He did. Now, it's unclear when he did the unfollowing. He could have unfollowed them last year and never refollowed them. And it's possible he never followed them in the first place, but he does not follow the 49ers as of now on Instagram. And that's something.
Okay. So here's the thing. I really appreciate, if I were still covering the 49ers and covering sports, I really would appreciate at this time Brandon Aiyuk, because it's just practice. There's not a lot going on. And then when you have somebody doing this, which is totally unrelated to football and the team, it has nothing to do with anything, but it gives you something to write about and talk about and focus on. So I want to say, God love Brandon Aiyuk. And Iggy, I bet you feel the same way.
Yeah, he did it in a way where he didn't take a shot at anyone on the team specifically. It's not even clear that he's talking about people on the team. He might be talking about you and me, which makes it even better. It's a way for us to talk. It gave everyone content. It gave everyone a show and an opinion. And I salute him for that. Thank you very much, Brandon.
Yeah, so what I want to say is he's a generous soul and he fulfills a need that media people have. But I want to go further than that to a more serious thing. He's 27 years old. Iggy, I consider you very young, but you're 10 years older than he is. And that's a big difference. I try to think back to when I was 27. I'm not saying this about him. I'm saying this about me. I was a schmuck. I knew nothing about life. I had no maturity. I was not a serious person. And when I look back on who I was at 27, I feel embarrassed. And there's a lot of people I owe apologies to. I really do. So if Brandon's behavior is immature, and because I don't know what he's talking about, I don't know that it's immature. But I'm saying if it is immature, I cut him a lot of slack because I don't think I was any more on top of things than he may be right now. And there's another thing I'd like to say. I covered sports seriously for about 40 years. And the older I got, the younger these people seemed. And there was more distance chronologically between us. And after a while, Iggy, I honestly had almost nothing to say to them. Not that they were bad, and not that I was bad. It's just there was so many generations between separating us, and I more and more I began to want to write about coaches
Mhm.
and owners because they were closer to my demographic. So if I were covering the Niners now, I wouldn't know what to say to Brandon Aiyuk. And Iggy, he's not the only one. There's probably most players on that team. I wouldn't even know how to talk to them.
Prize Picks will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you'll get $50 for playing. Use promo code COHN, COHN, and download the app now. The thing with Brandon, it kind of comes, again, maybe I'm wrong, but it kind of comes across as like almost teenage angst. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that he wants off the team. I don't know that he hates anyone. Like, there's some wide receivers in the league who are much more calculated and I don't know what the word I'm looking for, serious about their toxicity. Those are the wrong words, but this just feels like a guy kind of blowing off steam and being kind of coded about it so that he has plausible deniability. I mean, there are guys who force their way off teams. Like, there are guys like Debo who demand the ball and really seem to like bend the whole will of the team to himself. Brandon hasn't really done that. He just has some feelings and some grievances, and we don't exactly know what they are.
I think we can generalize, and I know you would agree with this, that on a football team, I'm talking offense, but I think this is true of defense too. The biggest drama queens and the biggest divas are the wide receivers.
Yeah.
Iggy, I think we could say that unhesitatingly
Yeah.
that they are. And we could name a bunch of them, a lot of them. And so I think that Brandon probably falls into that group. And what I've noticed with them, after they retire and they sort of emotionally catch up to their chronological age, they become normal and likable.
Mhm.
But while they're playing, I think it's necessary. It's not a flaw. I think
Yeah.
they have to be that way in
Yeah.
order to do the things they do. And Iggy, they are pretty much the biggest divas on the team. I would say, and you could disagree with me, maybe the second biggest divas are the defensive ends who
I would
rush
agree.
the passer.
I would agree.
That they would be almost in a class with wide receivers.
But yeah, it's usually guys on the edges, on the periphery, because they
Yeah.
see themselves as doing things one-on-one. And it was interesting. I think if you're going into business with an elite wide receiver, you sort of have to not only expect that kind of an ego, but like cater to it and pump it up because you want him to feel like he's the best player on the field. And when I did a show with Tom Walsh this morning and I asked him about Brandon Aiyuk, and he totally like diffused it like, wide receivers, what are you going to
Yeah.
do? And I think when you look at it like that and you just put him, only compare him to other very highly paid wide receivers that, I mean, throughout the years, he's much less of like a diva and a distraction than a lot of guys out there.
Well, I covered Terrell Owens.
Yeah.
I covered Terrell Owens, and I'd like to compare the two of them. I think a lot of people out there remember Terrell Owens. Let's talk about them as players second. Let's talk about them as teammates first. I think Aiyuk is a pretty good teammate. I've never heard him put down another player on his team. Never.
Publicly,
Now,
no, never.
No. Now he gets into it with people on other teams.
Mhm.
After they lost the Super Bowl to Kansas City, the defensive back coach made fun of him, right?
Yes.
Because they felt they could distract him and get him out of mentally out of the Super Bowl. That's
Yeah.
pretty bad. And he did have the thing with the shorts with the coach. What that was about and what his issues with authority are, I don't know the guy. But having said that, I think he's a pretty good teammate. I think he's a good 49er. Terrell Owens, I don't think was a good 49er. I covered him when he was at the Niners, and I think it was when Dennis Erickson was the coach that one season, and he did it. I like Dennis, but he did a terrible job. And after just about every game, everybody would gather around Terrell Owens. He even would sometimes go on a stage, and he would put down Jeff Garcia. And say the most brutal, that he wasn't a good quarterback. They should start Tim Rattay.
Rattay.
Yeah, he called him the rat and all this. And I thought Erickson, if Erickson was the coach indeed, he shouldn't have allowed that. He was a crummy teammate, and he tore that locker room apart.
And that's why
Now,
multiple teams got rid of him during his prime, even though he was a Hall of Famer.
absolutely. Had I voted on the Hall of Fame, I wouldn't have voted for him because he was such a crummy teammate.
It's a team sport, and he was not a team player.
Not in the least.
No.
Now, he was a better player than Brandon Aiyuk is.
Yeah.
That's the paradox here.
Yeah.
Brandon Aiyuk is a very good player. Now, we don't know what he will be when he comes back. He's a very good player. Terrell Owens was a great player. So he was a crummy teammate, but he was a great player. So how do you balance that out? I guess the long and the short of this is I'm willing to cut Brandon a lot of slack. And I think as he grows and gets older, he'll probably have his emotions more in check. Do you think so too, Iggy?
Get started at factormeals.com/Cohn50off and use code Cohn50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Yeah, and honestly, if we're saying, would you rather have prime T.O. or prime Aiyuk pre-knee injury? I'd rather have Aiyuk because I don't think you can have a player like T.O. on your team. I know the Eagles went to the Super Bowl that one year and almost won it, but he just seems to be the antithesis of what team building is all about.
I would have to agree. Now, I think he performed pretty well when Steve Young was the quarterback.
And Jerry Rice, and he couldn't just take over the freaking team.
Right. He couldn't do that. Let's stay with Steve. I told you this. After poor Dwight Clark died, they had a big thing in a church in the city, and then across the street at the Fairmont. And Steve was there, and Terrell Owens was there. And I think Terrell was trying to decide whether or not, this is what I heard, to go to the Hall of Fame ceremony. Because, I think he's a little confused sometimes. And I observed Steve putting his hands on Terrell's shoulders and looking him in the eye, like 6 inches away. Terrell locked his eyes on Steve, and Steve was lecturing him about something. And I thought it was about, you need to show up. The point is, he was still the quarterback, and Terrell was still taking advice and direction from him. And in fact, I told you about it that day, and you're the one who said he's still the quarterback. And it was very powerful and very interesting. So when Terrell had a leader like Steve, a great leader, he was a better teammate.
Yeah. And, in that moment, he was Terrell. He was a T.O. And I think when he became T.O., I think that was like, Skip called him team obliterator. It was just caricature, and I don't think it made him better. And I think a lot of times wide receivers take on caricatures, and they become like we saw Antonio Brown, Hall of Fame player, maybe the best wide receiver of his era. He became AB and lost it. And Brandon Aiyuk calls himself BA. Brandon, my only advice is someone 10 years older than you, lean into Brandon. You don't want to be BA. Just saying.
Iggy, he calls himself BA?
BA. Everyone calls him BA.
It's funny. I want to say something because I'm a writer. I generally don't like writers who go by their initials.
Yeah.
I'm Lowell Cohn.
R.L. Stein.
I just don't like it. T.E. Lawrence, D.H. Lawrence. What's your name?
Yeah.
I mean, what do people call you? Right? I want to Lowell Arthur, L.A. Cohn. People call me Lowell. As
we call you LC, though, sometimes in the press box.
They do. But I think they're kind of joking when they do
it. It's like only in sports world would you do that.
You know who does? Dubow. Yeah, because I call him JD.
Yeah.
LC. We do that as a joke. Joke. Yeah.
Well, Dad, if I ever feel like you're getting a little too big for your britches, I'm going to start calling you LC.
Okay. So
but
anyway,
if you play wide receiver, I'll let it slide.
So Brandon, what we're saying is we're on your side. We like you. And maybe take a deep breath, and we hope your recovery goes well.